Hi everyone, it's Emily, and today I wanted to share my little PS4 collection with you all and also sort of talk about how I plan to expand it in the near future. I mentioned this briefly on my channel, but before I didn't really have a PS4 on my own. I just played a little bit of like family members and things like that, but I recently have one now on hand. It was sort of gifted to me because my brother basically didn't really find a use for it anymore and let me have it. So very grateful for that. So over the years I have accumulated a few games, mostly some collector's editions of titles that I really wanted to just own because I knew someday I wanted to have a PS4. It was just that when I was a college student and in grad school and constantly kind of moving back and forth places, those large bulky consoles are not fun to move. And I sort of was waiting for a more stable living situation before I bit the bullet and bought a PS4, or now the PS5 is sort of what I have my eyes on in the next year or so. But yeah, now I think is the time to buy PS4 games because there are a lot of great titles and a lot of them are at reduced prices. So first I'm going to share all the games that I own, as well as some recent games that have fallen into my possession. So first off are my Trails of Cold Steel games. So I do have collector's editions for all of these. This is one of my favorite series of all time. If you love a slow burn JRPG game, the Trails series is really the way to go. I just really love all the characters, and I just love how all the connections are made as you kind of progress through the game. And I think the story is just one of the best that you see in JRPGs nowadays. So along with the first one, I of course also have the sequel, Trails of Cold Steel 2. You may have noticed that both of these are PEGI. I try not to think too hard about that as a collector, but yeah, both of these come with beautiful steelbooks. Definitely A+ for steelbooks. And these are remastered versions of the original PS3 and Vita games. So I've actually been playing these for the first time because I originally played the first two games on the Vita. And I of course also own the collector's editions for the other two in the series. This is from when NIS America took over the localization of the Trails series. So the packaging is much different. As for the steelbooks, unfortunately I don't think they're as nice as the ones that Xseed released for the first two games, but it's still nice to have these steelbooks. I'm not a huge steelbook collector, as you'll see, but for games I really like, I do want to own the steelbook because I think they're nice collector's items to have. And lastly for Trails, I have the fourth one here that comes in this kind of box that NIS America has been doing recently. And it's much more compact than the third box was, so that's good for shelf space, though it is kind of weird having all these different sizes of boxes for the same series. And moving on, I'll share my other Falcom games. I do have Eve's Memories of Salsetta here. So this is a nice remastered version, and I believe this was released after the Vita version. This is my first Eve's game, and I really enjoyed it. I like the controls for this action JRPG, and I thought that sort of the map making was a cool aspect. It's a way to have that exploration sort of feel in the game. And then the last Falcom game I have is Tokyo Xanadu, and I actually did get the big collector's box of this, but in one of my moves I was just really limited on space, and so I kind of tossed out the statue, which I'm sure all the collectors are just kind of internally screaming as I'm saying this, but I do have all the other things. It's just folded out. I couldn't carry the statue with me in one of my last moves I had to do. I have heard good things about this. I know a lot of people compare it to Persona 5 because of the school theme, but it's still its own sort of thing, so I definitely want to give it a chance and see how it goes. And next we're going to get into some games that I haven't had a chance to play yet, but I did buy. So I do have Catherine Full Body here, the collector's edition that comes with the steelbook and the little sheep plush. I have played a little bit of this game, but I haven't spent nearly as much time as I want to. I was hesitant to actually try this because of the cheating theme. It's not a theme that appeals to me in general, but I really like the puzzle aspect of this game, and I'm curious to see where the story goes from where I left off. But yeah, I'm definitely glad I grabbed this, and I really can't go wrong with most Atlas titles in my opinion. And now for Final Fantasy, I do have Final Fantasy VII, and it is still wrapped because I haven't played it yet. I did buy the collector's edition of the remake, mostly because of all the hype that happened, and I just thought this is probably going to be a game I'll really like, and I still think I'll really like it. Why I've held off playing this is mostly because I'm still getting through the original. So I do have the digital original Final Fantasy VII on the Switch, and I'm about halfway into it. I put it down because I was a little bit stuck and not really sure what to do. In the overview map, I didn't know where to go. But then I figured it out eventually and set it down, and yeah, I haven't picked it up since then. But I could see why Final Fantasy VII, the original one, was just a treasured title for so many people. I did really enjoy it, despite definitely seeing an age. I didn't grow up in the PS1 era, but it was still a really enjoyable experience. I have to pick it up and resume. The other Final Fantasy title I have is World of Final Fantasy. I don't have too much exposure to Final Fantasy outside of Final Fantasy 12 and then bits and pieces of 7, 10, and 13. But I do like the concept of this game, of sort of the stacking chibis. But yeah, I want to try this eventually. Okay, so next I have Ratchet and Clank. So this is the remastered version of the original PS2 game. So the PS2 game I played and I loved way back in the day. So I picked this up, I think, pretty cheaply. And I did play a little bit of the remastered version for a short bit, and it just kind of gave me all those nostalgic feels. I really just loved those 3D action platformer games. So the Ratchet and Clank series and Jak and Daxter back on the PS2. So I'm glad to see that Ratchet and Clank is still continuing. I'm a little sad we don't have any new Jak and Daxter games. But yeah, I really do want to pick up more 3D action platformer games because those are the games I really loved on the PS2. This next game I did share in my May pickups video, and that is Yakuza Like a Dragon. In that monthly overview video, I did talk about how Like a Dragon in particular really appealed to me because of its references to Dragon Quest, and it just seemed like a really fun, kind of crazy experience. And I do know that it's different from the previous entries of the series, but I definitely do want to give those a try at some point. And when I bought that game, I did get the steelbook, so that's there. So I'm down to the last 2 games in my personal collection, but I'll get into some games that I recently acquired. So this first one is Valkyrae Remastered. So this is a strategy RPG with some real-time strategy elements, and I've heard nothing but good things about the series. I actually own the 4th entry on the Switch, and I've been sort of debating which one to start first, actually. I'm sort of leaning towards starting this first remastered version, actually, just to kind of see the roots of the series and where it all started. And then lastly, I have Persona 5 Royal here, the Steelbook edition. Yeah, this has just been forever on my list of games that I want to play, so I'll get to this someday. I did recently pick up Persona 4 Golden on the Vita, so I'm thinking of still playing that one first and then eventually sinking a lot of time into Persona 5 Royal. Alright, so those are all the games that I've bought over the years, and I do plan on buying a lot more because PS4 just has a rich catalog of so many JRPGs, action-adventure games, and just so many good titles. And even though I've had access to this PS4 Pro for the past few months, I actually have been a little hesitant to start fully collecting for it. And I think that's mostly because I'm just unsure whether to pick up some of the cheaper PS4 titles or wait to see if they're going to get PS5 remasters. So I don't know if any of you are in this kind of same boat when it comes to collecting, and if it really matters to upgrade to the PS5 version when the PS4 versions are perfectly fine, especially if you're playing them on the PS5 that is backwards compatible. So this is something that I've been kind of personally wrestling with before really starting into collecting PS4 games. But anyway, I do have a couple of PS4 games that I acquired from my brother. He did have some titles that I definitely wanted to play, and I did plan on getting for myself. And there are also a couple games here that I normally wouldn't pick out for myself, but I'm willing to try, just to try something new. This first one here is Kingdom Hearts 3. So I did play the first 2 Kingdom Hearts games on the PS2. I was warned by my brother that the experience in Kingdom Hearts 3 is not as satisfying, and it might kind of ruin some of my nostalgia for the first 2 games if I do play this game. So I've been holding off on this, mostly because of that warning. I think I will eventually give it a go. and just kind of have lowered expectations because this game was just in the works for so long. And yeah, everyone has opinions about this game. So I sort of want to form my own opinion, of course, and they did announce the 4th entry is in the works. That seems a lot different too. And I do have a loose disc of one of the HD remixes. I think this is, which one is this one? 1.5 plus 2.5 remix. It's in a red box sleeve. I have no idea why, but that's how it came to me. So I've been also thinking of replaying the first 2 games and maybe watching some of the footage for the other games that I didn't get to play. So yeah, it's nice to have access to these. Another game I'm excited to try out is God of War. And I did play the original back on the PS2. I know the PS4 game is much different and much more story driven, which definitely interests me. So I definitely want to give this one a go. And he also had Uncharted 4, A Thief's End, so the finale to the Uncharted series. I never played the first 3. I do know that there's some nice remastered packages on the PS4 and also on the PS5. I'm kind of struggling which version to get, but regardless, I've heard nothing but good things about the Uncharted series, and this is by Naughty Dog. And I already kind of gushed over how much I loved Jack and Dexter. So yeah, definitely like to get to that one eventually. Also have SpiderMan, which I believe was one of the original PS4 games on launch, I want to say. But yeah, I've heard everyone loves this game, and I definitely want to give it a try. And the last game I have here is The Show 19, and I'm going to confess, I'm not really into sports games. And baseball is not really my sport of choice. When I was younger, I was actually pretty competitive with soccer and basketball. So if I had to choose a sports game, probably basketball and soccer would be my preferred choice. But I've heard that this is probably one of the best baseball games of all time. So I'm willing to give it a try. I'm not really expecting much, but you never know. And we're going to end here with a PS5 title that I obviously can't play. However, I do have plans to get a PS5 in the next year or year and a half or so. And also, it was only $5 at GameStop, and that is Chris Tales, which I've heard was pretty buggy. I avoided the Switch version because I did hear the loading times were the worst on that version, even after the patches. But I really just like the art style of this game, and it does have an interesting turn-based feel that I would like to explore eventually. And a $5 PS5 game was just a little too hard for me to pass up. So yeah, that is all the PS4 and the one PS5 game I own at the moment. I do plan on expanding this collection sometime soon. But yeah, I'd love to hear your guys' thoughts when it comes to waiting for the PS5 remasters for certain titles, or just buying the PS4 games when they're pretty cheap. I do have a bit of time on my side because I don't plan on getting the PS5 for a while. So I'm okay with waiting patiently for the right version, but I would just love to hear your guys' thoughts regarding, I guess, PlayStation collecting nowadays. And if you guys have any recommendations for PS4 titles that you think I should consider looking into sooner rather than later when they're deeply discounted, I'd love to hear about them. If you guys have seen my other collection videos, you know that I really love JRPGs and some niche titles, as well as some action adventure and platformer games as well. And I feel like the PS4 catalog is a bit intimidating to kind of look into outside of just the well-known AAA titles. So yeah, I'd love to hear your thoughts on those. And then lastly, to close out this video, I just wanted to thank everyone for just the positive response to this channel and all the thoughtful and kind comments many of you leave. I recently hit 1,000 subscribers, which is still a bit unbelievable to me. I'm still surprised by how many of you guys watch my videos when it comes to how I go about game collecting and sort of my rambles of what sort of games I enjoy and whatnot. So I'm very, very humbled by just how quickly this channel has grown. And I also just love interacting with many of you in the comment section and just talking about our love of video games and collecting. All the comments just make my day, and I feel like this is one of the first times that I've been able to actually talk about video games with people and just general discussions about video games that I struggle to personally find both offline and online. So it's something that I'm very grateful for. I do have a community tab now, so I will be making a post collecting questions for my 1,000 subscriber Q&A special video. So be on the lookout for that, and I do have more videos in the works. Work has kept me busy recently, and I think it may continue to do so in the coming months. But I'm still looking forward to making more content for you guys and continuing to interact in the comment section as well as on Twitter. So until my next video, bye guys.